It is time for another edition of the 𝐘𝐲 HQ podcast. Of course, I am Jason Floyd, as always, joined by the fighter Pete Rogers Jr. here to break down UFC Vegas 109. Goes down tomorrow night inside the UFC Apex, headlined by a middleweight matchup between 𝗏𝗏 and Anthony Hernandez. Also, we got 𝗍𝗏𝘁𝘁 taking on Osborne. Of course, this is a late notice change. Of course, 𝗏𝗏𝘁 was supposed to take on Park. Now he takes on Osborne, and it's not 125. It's at 135 because of the short notice aspect of it. Pete, how's it going, man?
What's up, Jason? Happy to be back here after an awesome last week for us. I mean, it was a very good week for the community. I mean, I went 11-1 with my picks. I felt pretty good about it. It felt like a great week after the previous 3 weeks, which was like I was stuck in purgatory. It was nice to feel confident again. It's like, oh my gosh, all right. And this week, this is a very odd slate, as you and I were talking about pre-show.
Yeah, I looked at the betting odds first. Yeah. So yesterday when I did the MMA report, we had 12 fights where 9 of those 12 fights had a fighter that was at least a 3-1 betting favorite. That number has gone down to 8 fighters because Matsumoto, when I was putting my sheet earlier today, he's now a minus 280 betting favorite. I don't know if I've ever seen this, Pete. The fact of so many 3-1 betting favorites, and when you look at the DraftKings odds, and we can get right into game theory talking about this, like this is crazy to me to think about. You have a fighter who is currently minus 450, and she is only 8,600 on DraftKings.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because I was noticing that when I was making my sheet, and I'm like, man, oh man, these lines are just completely ballooned to almost untouchable money lines. And it's just like, all right, well, pick your poison at the top. I mean, or actually pick your poison at the bottom, and then just kind of figure out which top end option you feel the most confident about. But then you start putting every fighter under a microscope, and you're trying to figure out who's going to lay an egg, who's going to disappoint, who's going to maybe get fraud checked, and very, very wide odds a part of the entire card. And I wasn't necessarily expecting that. I mean, but some of these are squash matchups, right? Like we know what they are. And the game is all about timing. Mm-hmm. The matchmakers know what they're doing. But I just think MMA as a whole, the betting markets have really amplified what the odds are. It's kind of crazy.
I mean, when I looked at the betting odds just the start of the week, I was like, God damn it. Are we going to trust Cody Brunge as a favorite? And look, personally, I like Cody. I can't put my money behind him.
You're right. Exactly. And I totally agree with you. It's like, as an underdog, I'm tempted, right? Because, he is powerful. He's a good wrestler. But once you start having favorite odds attached to you, I find reasons to back the other guy. I'm sorry. And this week, I can, full transparency, I'm going to be going after Eric McConaughey simply because of his opponent. And I know this is just a weird situation. The fight's at a higher weight class than normal. It's on short notice. A lot of variables, a lot of volatility, and I think that there's a lot of unknowns surrounding McConaughey. And honestly, I'm quite surprised that the masses are comfortable betting on Cody Brunage as a favorite, because he's really and utterly, completely lost all confidence from me.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this. I think the question is, when you look at some of these big favorites, when you talk about these big favorites, like Fernandez at 4-1, Medic, nearly a 4-1 betting favorite, Edwards, 4.5-1 betting favorite, Smith 800. Like I look at someone like a Priscilla Ketawera and going, if she can somehow keep the fight on the feet, and that's a big if, I go, you know what? We know the kind of power that she does have, but always her fault, has been being taken down in her matchups. Erbena. I mean, I know the unders are absolutely juiced on that one. That's a fight that you probably have to, I hate to say, you probably might need to prioritize just because of the volatility in that one. I mean, it's probably going to be a boom bust play on either side of that. I don't trust Julia Storolenko, but I see a path of a way for her to win that matchup. You look at, but then I look at the fighters I look at as a takedown city option. we'll talk about Anthony Hernandez. No, I don't think we really have to talk about why he is that
Right.
much of a takedown city. But I look at someone like a Matsumoto at minus 280, 8,500 on DraftKings. We saw what he did in his last matchup. Now it was Rob Font. We all know that is the Achilles heel of Rob Font. But I'm sitting there, I'm looking at G Matsumoto right now at 8,500 and going, you know what? I might just say, screw it. Matsumoto, Fluffy Hernandez is my core.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you because the mid range is a little bit more, a little easier to get to, obviously, and they still have significant upside because they are pretty big favorites. I mean, a minus 300 in Fluffy Hernandez, a minus 280 in Matsumoto. Priced mid range doesn't really happen all that much. You could also go in between those, and you can get the Jocelyn Edwards, which is basically a minus 300 favorite as well. So tons of options, and it makes DFS very difficult, and it makes fight prediction pretty difficult as well because nobody likes when we're all chalk, right? I mean, but the reality is I'm going to be pretty chalky this week, but I do think that I'm a little bit more different than the public on two of my picks. And then I think the third one as a dart throw, I don't mind. And I'm excited to see if the listeners agree or disagree with me, but I'll be damned. I got to pick somebody, right? And I don't think it's a week where all favorites cash. I just have to try to figure out which underdogs have a legitimate shot and, aren't completely outclassed against their opponent.
No doubt about it. Of course, we have Pete's Patreon page. You want to check that out. Link to that is in the show notes of this episode, where you get the algorithm that Pete has and everything that he does over Patreon. You definitely want to check out a lot of great information that Pete puts out there each and every week for these UFC events. Of course, also we got our Discord show. I know some questions have already come in. We'll get to those at the end of the show. Let's get right into break this one down. The main event is Roman Dolidze taking on Anthony Hernandez. Hernandez is priced at $8,700 on DraftKings, $18 on FanDuel. He's a minus 330 betting favorite. Dolidze is $7,500 on DK, $14 on FanDuel. He is at plus 260. And really the two notes that I had written down on this one, Pete, is A, can Dolidze get an early swarm, or will Hernandez drain him out over 5 rounds? And do you trust Dolidze to keep the fight on the feet? We've seen the takedown defense be an issue for him in the past. And look, I broke down the numbers of the last 6 fights for Fluffy Hernandez. He has had 91 takedown attempts. He's landed 39 in his last 6 fights. Last time he went 4 for 8 against Brandon Allen in a 3-round fight. Prior to that, he had double-digit takedown attempts in his previous 5 fights, Pete.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think everybody within the community is saying how Fluffy Hernandez is like the Kamaru Usman, the Colby Covington, the Merab Dvalishvili type of fighter within the middleweight division. And for the most part, I would agree. He goes out there and he puts a pace on his opponents, and he weaponizes his cardio to such a degree that it breaks his opponents over 15 minutes or over 25 minutes, as evidenced in the Michel Pereira fight. There is a liability about Fluffy Hernandez that I'm very, very worried about because for whatever reason, we saw Kevin Holland go to his body years ago. We've seen him get hurt to the body countless times. I don't really understand why he's so soft to the body, but also so vulnerable at the same token. So a guy who is so powerful as Roman Dolidze is, we've seen Dolidze in the clinch. We've seen him against Daukaus sitting there and throwing a knee up the middle, good clinch fighting. I do worry maybe, he could end up hurting Fluffy to the body. But as far as numbers are considered, on paper, this looks like Fluffy Hernandez blows out Roman Dolidze. And I'll tell you why, because according to my pace rating, Fluffy Hernandez has a pace of 12.5, whereas Dolidze has a pace of 7.22. So in the striking ratio, Hernandez's striking ratio is 1.72, whereas Dolidze's striking ratio is 1.00. And the striking differential for Hernandez is 1.89, and Dolidze is just barely above sea level at 0.02. So obviously the more efficient and the more volume heavy fighter is Fluffy Hernandez. No question about it. But I still think that he is going to have to be a little careful with his engagements in the grappling. I don't think that he can go out there and attempt his usual 10.45 per 25 minutes, which translates to actually landing 10.45 per 25 minutes, which means he's attempting 20 plus takedowns in a 5-round fight. So that's quite ridiculous. But he is going up against a fighter with 33% takedown defense in Roman 𝗀𝗏𝘁. But I think that's largely due to 𝗀𝗏𝘁 being so comfortable on the mat, rolling for legs consistently, off of his back, throwing up arm bars, transitioning to leg entanglements. Like the way that 𝗀𝗏𝘁 attacks off of his back, I think that Hernandez might get spooked a little bit and may not have the same type of volume as usual. Because if he does, and he has a mental lapse at any point, I really think that 𝗀𝗏𝘁 is live to pick up a submission finish. I'm telling you right now. The better fighter over 25 minutes, 100%, is Fluffy Hernandez. But it may not matter if he puts himself in danger with 𝗀𝗏𝘁 on the mat. And I'll tell you what, like, you could be very good in the front headlock position. You could be very good from all different positions. But if you do not train leg locks consistently, okay, or if you have never been in there with a leg lock specialist, they can isolate that leg. They can get the inner or outer reaps. They can really go in there and isolate. And I think that we could see 𝗀𝗏𝘁 snatch up a heel hook and blow out Hernandez's knee. I'm telling you right now, Jason. So that is a gut pick, right? The gut call for me is that Fluffy gets a little too comfortable on the mat, thinks that he's safe, and then Roman either rolls for a leg, and then it leads to a sequence of submission attacks with 𝗀𝗏𝘁 possibly snatching up a leg lock. But outside of that, man, I tell you, I think that Hernandez styles on 𝗀𝗏𝘁. So it's like he just has to be careful. He has to be careful the entire 25 minutes. And clearly, the better fighter as each round progresses is going to be Fluffy Hernandez. So the brain pick is clearly pick Fluffy Hernandez and move on, as everybody within the market will. I mean, he'll probably be owned by large majority of everybody. And then, you got to pick one side or another, I think. And if you are a 𝗀𝗏𝘁 backer, I think you're really counting on the first 3 rounds. Personally, I'll be picking 𝗀𝗏𝘁 in a lot of my lineups, and it's largely due to the slate. Like, the slate sucks from an underdog standpoint. So I'd much rather pick a guy in Roman 𝗀𝗏𝘁 who I've been undervaluing consistently, pretty similar to how I undervalued Chris Duncan last week and all his fights prior. But I mentioned to you guys that I do like him from an underdog pool standpoint, just because he constantly impresses me or constantly surprises me, even though my evaluation on him is down. And that's kind of the same thing I have for Roman 𝗀𝗏𝘁. I'm constantly picking against him. I'm constantly doubting him. He does not wow me, but somehow he finds a way to win. And on paper, this should be Fluffy Hernandez all day long. But as far as DFS, you better have your exposure to 𝗀𝗏𝘁 as well. So the pick will be Fluffy Hernandez, Jason. But I don't mind getting to 𝗀𝗏𝘁 at all. He's one of my favorite plays on the entire slate.
Yeah, the ownership on Fluffy Hernandez is just insane, but you see why the ownership is insane, because of that grappling upside that he does have. I just don't, if you tell me this fight hits round 4, I think it's Fluffy Hernandez's fight all the way. If you tell me this fight's over within 2 or 3 rounds, I'm thinking, 𝗀𝗏𝘁's got a great chance. When we're talking about from a DraftKings perspective, from a DFS perspective, I mean, look, you want to get different than the field. Yeah, get away from Fluffy Hernandez. But you're going to be scared like hell. Yeah. The fact that this thing goes 25 minutes and he goes out there and gets, let's just say, 2 takedowns a round. Now he's got 10 takedowns right there. I mean, that's what scared you. He could absolutely break the slate here, but I totally understand why people are going to go with him, and it's completely understandable. But yeah, the leverage play would be for 𝗀𝗏𝘁. But yeah, to me, I think Fluffy Hernandez gets a job. But you mentioned about 𝗀𝗏𝘁 and that submission. That's submission prop plus 1,500 for Roman 𝗀𝗏𝘁.
Really? Because to me, that's insane, because he's a grappler at heart. And I think that line might be largely due to like Rodolfo Vieira being unable to get Anthony Fluffy Hernandez out of there. But it's different with leg entanglements, right? Inverted heel hooks, outside heel hooks, knee bars. Look what Roman 𝗀𝗏𝘁 did with the calf slicer entry, taking the back of Jack Hermanson, which led to one of the most beautiful and brutal ground and pound positions I've ever seen. So I just think like a leg lock expert like this, you got to be very, very careful. And if you get too comfortable on the mat, you're kind of right in 𝗲𝗁𝘁𝐻𝑧's wheelhouse. So I'm excited to see the grappling situations. Obviously, the wrestling, the better wrestler here is Fluffy Hernandez. It's not even close. But the grappling is what I'm interested in seeing the exchanges. But yeah, the brain says Hernandez, the gut says 𝗲𝗁𝘁𝘁.
And something to note, Fluffy Hernandez did need 2 times to make weight earlier today, but he did make weight on his second attempt. Now, our co-main event will be a bantamweight matchup between two flyweight fighters. Of course, this is a fight that came together here recently when Park was moved up to fight last week. 𝗵𝗁𝘁𝘁 taking on Osborne. is a fighter, of course, stepping up here on short notice. He's priced at $7,100 on DK, $10 on FanDuel. He's a plus 400 betting underdog. For 𝗲𝗁𝘁, he's $9,100 on DK, $20 on FanDuel. He is a 6-1 betting favorite in this. Osborne, by the way, will have a 5-inch reach advantage in this one. 𝗲𝗁𝘁, this is actually his third opponent for this fight card. Initially, he's supposed to take on 𝐼𝐠∞ Of course, Perez pulls out of the fight. Then Park, of course, rescheduled there. 𝗲𝗁𝘁, he has lost 3 in a row, but is to the top of this division. Pantoja, France, and Moreno. But one of the things that is a little bit of an interesting note here, P, this is the first southpaw that 𝗵𝗁𝘁 is going to fight in the UFC.
Yeah, and I always give an initial edge to southpaws if everything is even. I don't think everything's even here. I think that 𝗵𝗁𝘁 is clearly taking a step down in competition by facing Osborne, and it's pretty significant. Ever since 𝗵𝗁𝘁 has been in the UFC, he's kind of been fast-tracked to the elite within the division because everybody was impressed with his performances. He beat David Dvorak, Alessandro Costa, knocked out Matt Schnell. Next thing you know, he's fighting for the title against Alexandre Pantoja. Follows up that near win with a fight against Ketawera, France, gets knocked out. Follows that up with the former champion in Brandon Moreno. Because next thing you know, you got a big notable name. It's hard to really take steps down in competition when the UFC has so much faith in you, and also everybody views you as a top talent. So he's winless in his past 3, but now he's getting a much easier matchup in Osborne. And Osborne, somebody that I think has improved over the years, clearly. But this is a guy that, broke into the UFC with a pretty low level strength of schedule. Let me pull up his strength of schedule real quick. I wasn't all that impressed. I mean, within his wins sit at 52.53%. So that's pretty low level competition, and compared to 𝗲𝗁𝘁�'s 60.65% win rate of his wins. So what I'll say is that Osborne, we've seen him get guillotined against Brian Kelleher. If you are chinny, he can knock you out. He knocked out Jerome Rivera. He knocked out Zaruk Adashev. He's also been knocked out in his own right from Tyson Nam and Manel Kopp. But if you get into a 15-minute kickboxing match with him and you don't push the wrestling, he can win a fight against you. Ask Charles Johnson. So I think the clear path is for 𝗵𝗁𝘁𝘁 to not just have a kickboxing or boxing matchup with the longer Osborne, who has a missile of a left hand. And we've seen 𝗲𝗁𝘁 get hurt from time to time. We saw Ketawera, France hurt him. We've seen other fighters hurt him as well. So I don't like the 𝗵𝗁𝘁 chin as much as I once did. But there's a clear path to victory by taking down Osborne and looking to replicate what Asu Almabayev and Jafel Filio and what Brian Kelleher also did, picking up submissions over Osborne. So utilize the wrestling. Don't stand at the end of his punches. Don't just get into a kickboxing matchup. Show that there's levels to this game. And I think the better fighter over 15 minutes, or the better MMA fighter, if you will, is clearly 𝗵𝗁𝘁𝘁. I know that Osborne just picked up a very nice TKO over Luis Garule. I still that's cool. He finally righted the ship after having 3 losses in a row, nearly beating Ronaldo Rodriguez, but ultimately coming up short. The longer this fight goes, it's clearly in 𝗲𝗁𝘁�'s favor when it comes to the cardio department as well. So I just see too many ways for 𝗲𝗁𝘁𝑒 to win this fight. If you are going to bet on Osborne, I would honestly recommend just betting on him to win via KO, because I do not think that he's going to be able to beat 𝗲𝗁𝘁𝑒 over 15 minutes. So if you're betting on Osborne, you better be betting against 𝗲𝗁𝘁𝑒's chin, because I think that 𝗲𝗁𝘁𝑒 clearly styles on Osborne here. I think he's a pretty sizable favorite. Yeah, I mean, he is -400, but I think he's a pretty solid pick at 9,100. it just comes down to urgency. I mean, if he doesn't really get his wrestling or grappling going till round 2 or round 3, does he pay off the price tag with tons of wide favorites? Maybe not. I do like him here in a clear step down in competition matchup against Osborne.
And when you look at that TKO KO prop for Osborne, 9-1, you can get him at 7-1 inside the distance. The plus 1,200 win by decision does stick out to you. But, maybe if you want to be a 𝗍𝗫 better, I think the decision prop up plus 210 is kind of intriguing. When you talk about a guy who's lost 3 in a row, you just kind of, are they going to come out and, pull that trigger, or are they going to fight a little smarter than typically you see them in the past? But yeah, to me, 𝗍𝗫 is the pick. I mean, yeah, I do concern about the fact of, the 5-inch reach disadvantage, but also I do kind of wonder what was Osborne really doing before getting the opportunity for this one. But obviously, if you're 𝗍𝗫, if you don't get the win here, 𝗍𝗫's days in the UFC will be over. That's what always kind of concerns me. You get in these situations where could the fighter fight a little safer, and then that fantasy score upside is not as high as it usually is. Next up, we got a female matchup. We got Lucindo taking on 𝗲𝗲. 𝗲𝗲 priced at $7,900 on DK, $15 on FanDuel. She's plus 155 on the betting lines. Lucindo, she's $8,300 on DK, $16 on FanDuel, and she is a minus 185 betting favorite. And really, I just have three notes on this one for you, Pete. I go, what wins out? Lucindo's takedowns, averages 2.15 per 15 minutes of fighting, or 𝗲𝗲's volume striking at 5.47. And then these are both decision fighters. Lucindo has gone to the decision in 5 or 6 UFC fights, and for Angela Hill, she has had 27 UFC fights, Pete. She's gone to the decision in 22 of those.
Jesus. Yeah, I mean, this fight is an interesting one, and I think it's one where a lot of bettors and a lot of DFS players will be finding the value in Angela Hill. And I think it's clearly a numbers play, and it's relative to the card. The underdogs stink this week. So talk yourself into an Angela Hill play because it's women's MMA. She tends to fight, in close contests. She has good volume. Her takedown defense has improved. Her overall game has improved. I do worry, though, that, there is a 17-year age gap between the two, 2 inches in the height plus reach department for Lucindo. Clearly, the experience is with Angela Hill. And what happens if Lucindo is unable to get those takedowns? Well, if this remains a kickboxing matchup, you have Lucindo attempting 6.68 strikes per minute, whereas Angela Hill will be attempting 10.94. I don't think that they're going to be kickboxing the entire time, because if I think they're going to have a kickboxing matchup, absolutely am I playing 7,900 plus 165 Angela Hill. But I do think that the strength and the variety of the takedowns that Lucindo will attempt could have some success. And if you get Angela Hill on her back, man, I really think that you can have good heavy pressure. I think that you can have a good position, and you can really ride out the round, have good top control. So 2.15 takedowns per 15 minutes for Lucindo, basically attempting 3.58 per 15 minutes. And it all comes down to the strength, right? Like, I think that Angela Hill is rangy, and I think that she fights a little longer than she actually is. But I think that Lucindo can get the clinch, maybe get her against the cage, wear on her a little bit, try to trip her, try to use a body lock. Not really a traditional wrestler, but more of a grappler with a very good body lock. And I do like Lucindo to win here over 15 minutes. I think the previous performance from Lucindo against Amanda Lemos was clearly just too big of a step, right? Like, Lemos is a very dangerous puncher, and then you engage in a clinch with her, and she's just too strong. I mean, she's a full-grown woman, and you are pretty early on in your career. So I think that Lucindo here, yes, Angela Hill is older and she's experienced, but I don't think she's as threatening or dangerous as in Amanda Lemos. So I like Lucindo to get back on the win track here. Wasn't really a fan of Angela Hill having a very close fight with Ketlen Souza. I mean, we just saw what Ketlen Souza looked like last weekend, and it's okay, but I just personally view Lucindo a lot bigger a lot better than Ketlen Souza. So the pick for me will be Lucindo. I think she gets the takedowns going. It probably reaches the later rounds. But whenever I see split decisions, You already know what Angela Hill's margins are like within her fights. I'm just predicting Lucindo to be a little bit cleaner here.
Yeah, when you look at the betting odds on the props for via decision, Lucindo minus 120, Hill at plus 210. And, these are typically the spots that I don't mind getting Angela Hill at just because of when she's in that underdog role. Because one thing is, more times than not, it's going to be a very close fight. I mean, rarely are you going to see Angela Hill just go out there and just get dominated. But, you mentioned about the age difference. Angela Hill, I mean, she's been around for a long time. We know who she is. I mean, I think if you tell me Lucindo gets the takedowns, it's the Lucindo pick all the way here. From a DFS perspective, it's a fight that I just don't love because I do wonder if Lucindo doesn't get those takedowns, do we not really get that score that we're hoping for in that one? Next up, we got Andre Fili taking on Christian Rodriguez. Rodriguez comes in here as a favorite. He's 8,400 on DK, $16 on FanDuel, minus 235. Betting fair for Touchy-Feely, he is 7,800 on DK, $14 on FanDuel. He is plus 190 on the betting odds. And one of the interesting stats on this one, Pete, for Andre Fili, his last 6 fights, one of 2 things have either happened. The fight's either ended in the first round or has gone the distance. When you look at Rodriguez, 6 of his 8 UFC fights have gone the distance, only has 1 stoppage win in the UFC. Fili will have a 3-inch reach advantage, but Christian Rodriguez is 7 years younger, Pete.
Yeah, so I mean, when you're looking at this fight, the veteran here in Andre Fili, the 7 inches in the height plus reach, the experience, the strength of schedule. I mean, when you're looking at the strength of schedule, Christian Rodriguez, 61.73 win percentage for his opponents, whereas Fili's win percentage for his opponents sits at 67.59%. So 6% better for Andre Fili. And then when you look at who they've beaten, okay, well, who have they beaten and what have their records been? Christian Rodriguez's opponents have a win within his wins. Their opponents have a 56% win rate. Not really the greatest. Anytime it's in the 50s or below, that's not good. And Andre Fili sits at 64%. So 8% difference for Andre Fili. But I'll tell you what, this is one where I think a lot of the value is clearly on Andre Fili, but the trust for me is gone. Yeah, I just don't trust Andre Fili anymore. I mean, I've backed him. I've touted him. I've said how big of a fan I am of his, how I like his kickboxing. I like his wrestling. I like his very explosive double leg takedown. And it's always been a guy I've rooted for. I mean, I love Team Alpha Male, so I'm always rooting for their guys. And we've kind of watched him grow up inside the UFC, but goodness, I cannot trust Andre Fili because the second I do, he ends up getting finished or he ends up being on top of 𝗪𝐿 appearing safe from a guillotine, staying there, allowing 𝗪𝐿 to adjust, make the adjustment, capture the neck a little cleaner, throwing the legs around, and end up submitting Andre Fili. Bro, you train you train at Team Alpha Male. You shouldn't be getting guillotined. I mean, that place, that whole place, it's wrestlers with an overhand and a guillotine. You should not be getting guillotined. So that really, really made me lose a lot of faith in Andre Fili going forward. And it's a shame because I do like him. So there's clear value here. I think there's more value on Andre Fili than Angela Hill, mainly because I think Christian Rodriguez might still be at the wrong weight class too, Jason, right? Like this is a guy, if he was strict and disciplined, he could be a bantamweight all day long as he's supposed to be. But he's kind of got these like Kelvin Gastelum vibes about him where it's just like, I don't know what the hell it is. The guy can't make weight. And then when you start pairing Christian Rodriguez up against hot prospects, you think that the organization is trying to punish him because of his antics on the scale. He beats all the prospects. And then you have Christian Rodriguez face a veteran in Julian Erosa, and he loses. So they're both very volatile, very untrustworthy candidates. This is a fight I don't really want to prioritize personally. I don't expect a first round finish. I mean, it could happen. But I do think that this touches the later rounds and is probably a close decision. Christian Rodriguez is in an interesting spot because I think his kickboxing clean. I think that his wrestling looked good in his previous fight against 𝗪𝐿 and that was kind of a questionable decision, if I remember off the top of my head. And then when you're looking at the striking ratio, 1.36 for Christian Rodriguez, 0.92 for Feely, so slightly better for Christian Rodriguez, 0.97 in the striking differential for Rodriguez, and Feely sits at a negative differential of minus 0.31, negative 0.31. So what that tells me is that Feely's getting hit a little bit more than he's hitting. So I don't like that. I don't like what I've been seeing from Andre Feely. I'm leaning at Christian Rodriguez. Yeah, I'm going to go C-Rod here in a decision. And it may not be a popular pick. I think everybody's going to want to get to some value and kind of reach a little bit. I don't blame him. Feel he could pull it off. I mean, he's alternated wins and losses like majority of his career, so technically he might be due for a win here. But I don't know. He's got to prove it to me, and I might be picking against him moving forward. So give me Christian Rodriguez here to edge out Andre Feely.
In the prop side of this equation, the two props that stick out to me on the Christian Rodriguez side is that plus 260 to win inside the distance, just because of what we've seen with Andre Feely over his past couple of fights. And for Feely, that decision prop at plus 425 does stick out to me, because I feel like if Andre Feely's going to get the job, it will be done via decision there. Next up, we got Miles John takes on Gene Matsumoto. Matsumoto priced at $8,500 DK, $17 on FanDuel. He's minus 280 betting favorite. For Miles John, $7,700 DK, $13 on FanDuel. He's at plus 230. The thing that I wrote down here, and something I alluded to a little bit earlier on in the show, is could we see that takedown city for Matsumoto? Had 7 takedowns in his last fight against Rob Font, but we all know if you're going to go with a game plan against Rob Font, it is about getting the takedown there. And for Miles John, he has gone the distance in his past 5 fights.
Yeah, so this is one where initially the data wanted me to pick Miles Johns. And I'll tell you, it was interesting because I'm sitting here and I'm looking at it. I'm like, okay, why is that? Why is that? And, well, it's because Miles Johns, his striking defense sits at 67%. And I got to double check that's correct. And I didn't mess that up, because I'm sitting there and I go, wow, that's low numbers for Matsumoto. And in my head, I'm thinking Matsumoto is going to put some volume on him. So, yeah, Miles John, 67% striking defense, quite impressive. And then in addition to that, his takedown defense sits at 81%. I just almost think that these numbers are inflated, and like it's largely due to the volume and pace at which Miles Johns fights at, right? Like, if you're looking at my pace rating, which is available on my Patreon, in addition to all these other stats that I'm reading off of, Miles Johns' pace rating sits at 6.32, whereas Matsumoto's pace sits at 10.36. So it's pretty easy to have a 67% striking defense rating if somebody's throwing 3 strikes at you per minute or something. But if you have Matsumoto throwing 10.36 at you, I'm not too sold that that's going to remain consistent here. You got Matsumoto 6 years younger than Miles Johns, 1 inch in the height and reach department, coming off a very good lesson against Rob Font, like a vet lesson, and one where, the takedowns were plentiful. The striking was clearly on Rob Font's side. I mean, even in a loss, Matsumoto crushed, right? Like, I believe if you stack that fight, which I don't know why you would, but if you did, that fight ended up delivering, because Matsumoto in the loss had 84.3, 7 takedowns, 6.5 minutes of control time. So that's pretty impressive for a fighter at 8,600. I'm just interested to see if he chooses to grapple Miles Johns here, because I don't think that's what's going to happen. I just don't. I think Miles Johnson is too explosive. He's a little muscle shark out there, and he'll throw very limited output. Clinching against the cage. We could see Matsumoto looking for guillotines here, looking to choke Miles Johns here. But I think ultimately we're going to see the kicks of Matsumoto, the volume, start to kind of really edge out Miles Johns. And Miles has that crazy power in his hands. We've seen him knock people out, big overhands, big uppercuts, good wrestling to fall back on. It's just like, man, I want somebody to hand me the controller while Miles Johns is fighting, and I want to press more output and volume, because I think he can put together better performances than what he has been. If you're looking at the striking ratio, 0.95 for Matsumoto, whereas Miles Johns does have a better one, 1.19. But I think that's because of the volume, and Matsumoto is willing to stand in the fire. The striking differential for Matsumoto, negative 0.22. Whereas Miles Johns is at 0.51. So those metrics clearly favor Miles Johns. I'm just not sold on it, man. I mean, like, let me tell you something good about Miles Johns, though, is being a part of Marathon MMA, kind of being a protege under Trey Ogden, I think is huge. I think that Trey Ogden is like a very cerebral fighter and coach. So I love what he's doing with his team. And that can honestly make me want to get to some more Miles Johns. It's just at 7,700. We kind of need these guys to have some volume attached to them. If Johns was sitting there at like 7,000, Jason, all right, maybe 65 points in the decision. We're not crying about it. I mean, granted, we always want 85 and up, but at 7,700, even if he wins, if he doesn't get a finish, does he pay off the salary? Does he make it into the optimal? I'm not entirely sure. Whereas that the volume from striking and wrestling is clearly on Matsumoto's side. So I'm going to lean with Matsumoto, but Johns will be somebody that I find interesting and probably boost within my stochastic sims.
When you look at Miles Johns, of course, a long time was at 4 to 7 May down there in Texas. Ends up, because he wanted to be closer to his family. Initially, it was going to be under the leadership of James Krause. We all know what happened there. Then, of course, a lot of those guys from Marathon MMA is Glory MMA Fitness. Essentially, that's what it was, a Glory MMA Fitness gym. Previously, it was just an affiliate gym, but then, of course, they had to change the names because of everything that kind of happened there with James Krause here. But for me, Matsumoto on the betting side, I'll be honest with you, nothing really sticks out to me on the betting side. Yeah. I mean, Matsumoto by decisions -120. I mean, look, if I'm going to take Miles Johns, if he wins, it's likely via decision. That's +400. But you know what? I would probably just not chase it. I would just take the money line +230, not even chase it, just in case something were to happen in terms of that one. Next up, we got Eric Anders taking on Christian Leroy Duncan. Duncan priced at $9,200 on DK, $20 on FanDuel, a -525 betting favorite here. For Eric Anders, he is priced at $7K on DraftKings, $10 on FanDuel. He is at +360. Duncan does have a 4-inch reach advantage in this one. He has gone to decision in back-to-back fights, 1-1 in that one. For Eric Anders, he's won back-to-back fights. What he was against Jamie Pickett and Chris Weidman at this stage of those careers. I don't know how much you really want to brag about those. And that was after a stretch where he went 1-3. And I will tell you this, just so because he's on my Snapchat, Eric Anders, he cut a decent amount of weight over the last 24 hours. Looks like he cut about 10, 11 pounds to get down to 186 feet.
Oh, 10, 11 pounds, that ain't nothing, Jason. But, yeah.
No. I think he woke up about 191 this morning, so he was trying to cut some weight.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we've done it. He's a big guy, right? Like, when I look at him, I'm like, all right, this guy's 220 all day long. He's a big athletic freak. He goes in there. He likes to pin you against the cage. He has a missile of a left hand. Pins you against the cage. Tries to land a ton of takedowns, ton of pressure. Does get hit a good amount. And recently, his durability has been in question. Listen to this, Jason. He's been knocked down in 3 straight fights. Marc-Andre Barriault knocked him down. Jamie Pickett knocked him down. Chris Weidman knocked him down. Notorious for his toughness over his career. That durability has gone out the window. And now he's going up against a very versatile striker in Christian Leroy Duncan. And Christian Leroy Duncan really hasn't wowed anybody, right? Like, his fluke win over Dusko Todorovic, only fluky because of the injury. To piggyback off of that, lost to Armin Petrosian in a kickboxing matchup. Like, what? Bro, like, you're supposed to be a fantastic kickboxer. Maybe you're not as good as we think. Then he ends up knocking out Dennis Tallulah, ends up knocking out Claudio Ribeiro. Then ends up losing to Gregory Rodriguez. Too big of a step up in competition, especially when the guy has a ground game of Gregory Rodriguez's caliber. But he didn't get finished by him, so I do find some impressive stuff about that. And then just completely styling on Andre Puliayev, who we saw last week, put together a great performance over Nick Klein. Here it is, Jason. I think that Christian Leroy Duncan's in a very specific spot to finish Eric Anders. And it's largely due to the rumors of Eric Anders making this possibly his last fight inside the UFC, questioning retirement, being at the back end of his career, getting knocked down in 3 straight fights. Marc-Andre Barriault knocked you down? Okay. Jamie Pickett knocked you down? Okay, I guess Chris Weidman knocked you down. What the hell's going on? CLD needs to go out there and knock him out. If you're legit, you need to knock him out. And I know that Eric Anders is one that really perseveres and pushes through, pins you against the cage, makes a close fight out of it, attempts a ton of takedowns. I mean, if we're looking at the takedown department, 1.71 takedowns landed per 15 minutes with 24% accuracy translates to 7.1 takedowns attempted. I mean, CLD, defend the takedowns, light him up, hit him with a knee, hit him with a spinning back fist, hit him with some elbows when he has you against the clinch, when he has you against the cage. So I just see so many ways for CLD to really pick up a finish over Eric Anders. The writing is on the wall. Capitalize on the opportunity. If he doesn't knock out Eric Anders in his retirement fight, who's been knocked down against 3 fighters that I think are C-tier fighters, a part of this weight class, then I think CLD is one of the most overhyped fighters inside the organization. So 9,200, I'm going CLD. Sprawl and brawl. You could lose, though. He could definitely get pinned against the cage for two rounds, maybe out wrestled. But CLD needs to go out there and knock out Eric Anders to pay off the 9,200. And personally, I think he does. So give me CLD to perform a little bit better than expectations.
And that TKO prop for Duncan is at plus 190, but Anders plus 700 to win by decision, man. That one, look, I'm an Eric Anders guy. I've known this guy. I've known since he was an amateur, when he was just making his way up the regional scene. But, look, he is a guy that he's bounced around from several gyms over the past couple of years, but really he's been just in Alabama preparing for this one. But, yeah, I mean, Duncan should get the job done, but if you tell me Eric Anders gets the job, I think it's a low score. I just, where kind of what you just mentioned, pins him up against cage, and we just, I just don't like the fantasy score upside for Eric Anders. But from a betting side, if you want to take him to win by decision, I have no problem in going in that one.
And real quick, I mean, Anders has had some unbelievable wins throughout his career. Like in LFA, he beat Brennan Allen. He's knocked out Rafael Natal. I mean, like he has wins over GM3. Like, so this is a guy like that was kind of catapulted immediately to facing Lyoto Machida. It's just the guy's on the back 9 of his career and possibly the last fight. So it's CLD for us.
Yeah, no question about it. Next up, we got Walker taking on Rafael. Rafael is a plus 475 betting underdog, price at 6,800 on DK, $9 on FanDuel. Walker, 9,400 DK, $21 on FanDuel. He is a whopping minus 750 here in his second UFC fight. Of course, made his UFC debut against Alonzo Menifield. Lost that fight via split decision. All of his pro wins have come via stoppage. And for Rafael, 0-2 in the UFC, and he has been stopped in the first round in both those fights, Pete.
Yeah, and this fight's ugly. I don't understand the line. I truthfully don't. I mean, Julius Walker should be the favorite, but, I mean, what has he really proven inside the octagon? And the line is clearly because of Rafael 𝗁. He's looked terrible. I mean, he got knocked out against Ibo Aslan, also got knocked out against Modestas Bukauskas. But this is a training partner of Jailton Almeida, one where Jailton went to bat for him and was like advocating for the UFC to sign him. So it's like, all right, maybe 𝗁 is better than what he's shown. He's just been getting smoked in round 1. And from everything I'm seeing, like Julius Walker, I hope he's not underestimating 𝗁 because 𝗁 is a pretty big guy. Walker's big as well. Walker has 9 years younger, 3 inches in the height and reach department. But, like, having a very close fight with Alonzo Menifield on short notice, impressive. And I think that's why the line is what it is. But I've also seen footage of Julius Walker when he's not the one initiating takedowns. He's getting taken down. He's able to get controlled. And I do think that he's not an untouchable fighter. I mean, this is a guy that's what's he, 6-1 in his UFC, in his total career? He's 6-1. Rafael 𝗁 is 11-2. So he has double the experience of Julius Walker. I mean, granted, Julius Walker, he had a very long amateur career as well, but like this is one where you just got to be careful. This is a volatile division, and they both have terrible strengths of schedule. I mean, overall, the strength of schedule for Julius Walker, the win rate of his opponent sits at 58%, whereas the win rate of 𝗁's opponent sits at 55%. So both terrible. And then the win rate of their wins for Walker is 53%, and 𝗁𝗏 is at 48%. Honestly, it's an underplay, right? Like, you just play the under. Somebody's getting finished here. I think clearly it's Julius Walker finishing 𝗁𝗏, but 𝗁𝗏 does have some sneaky jiu-jitsu about him, despite being a kickboxer. He has some arm triangle chokes. I just don't know all that much about Julius Walker under the UFC lights. Granted, we don't know much about 𝗁𝗏 either, other than getting smoked in like 2 minutes from Bukauskas and Ibo Aslan. I'm just saying, like, don't have this attached to every parlay. I can see, of all the fighters on here, like, just the unknowns and possible slight inexperience of Julius Walker, him maybe getting, like, he could be the one that really gets fraud checked here, but I don't think so. I think that going from Alonzo Menafield to 𝗁𝗏 is a layup. Just be careful. Just be careful. I think Julius Walker probably gets him in a good position on the mat and pounds him out. Yeah. If this remains a kickboxing fight, 𝗁𝗏 is probably the better kickboxer with good kicks. But offensively, he's good, but defensively, he's absolutely flawed. And then when you're looking at the pace rating on my Patreon, 10.67 for Walker, whereas 𝗁𝗏's pace is a 5.09. So I'm picking Walker, but I'm not like in love with the line at all. I'm just telling you, buyer beware.
Oh yeah, there's a couple fights I think it got to be a buyer beware situation here. And when you look at the props on here, Walker inside distance -425, TKO KO -200, plus 400 by sub, plus 1,000 by decision. I mean, look, the betting public is telling you this fight ain't going to decision. But yeah, do I necessarily want to trust a Julius Walker at 9,400? Not really. And look, he very well may go out there and score 120 points. He very well could do that. Goes out there and just starts them in the first round, gets a knockdown, and we're talking 100, 110, 115, 120. But yeah, it's just it's lower level UFC competition. Let's just call it what it is in terms of this one. Next up, we got Smith taking on Kazama. Kazama is a 5-1 betting underdog here. Price is $6,900 DK, $8 on FanDuel. Elijah Smith, he's $9,300 on DK, $22 on FanDuel, and he is a 8-1 betting favorite. Of course, we saw him win his UFC debut against Vince Morales earlier on this year. He also won on the Contender Series as well. Both those were by decision. Fury FC product. And I think anyone who's listened to us for a long time know Fury FC is one of those regional promotions we talk about where they're really not the typical regional promotion where there's a lot of cupcake matchups. They do a great job of developing and getting guys at really good fights there. Kazama did snap a 2-fight losing streak in his last matchup back in August of last year, which was a submission win. And one of the things I wonder about Elijah Smith is, could this be a takedown city option here?
Yeah, I mean, you got to be careful, right? Whenever you're going up against a jiu-jitsu practitioner or a submission specialist like Kazama is, why bother wrestling with him? You already know the jiu-jitsu guy is not going to take you down. Sprawl and brawl, man. Like, I think that Smith can put hands on Kazama here. Smith is 6 years younger, 4 inches in height and reach department. And we've seen Kazama get knocked out against an orthodox fighter and a southpaw fighter. And Rinya Nakamura and Garrett Armfield. The guy has zero head movement. He has a suspect chin. He was getting hurt in the Charalampos Gregorio fight. But the one thing that you can always say is he's dangerous. Like, he's got that, like, women's MMA type of danger of armbar from guard, where we've seen fighters, they get knocked down and next thing you know, they're throwing up a prayer and they're throwing up some submission attempts that end up landing. And it's just like, oh gosh, you got to be careful. And I did notice that Smith had some susceptibilities in the submission department against Vince Morales. But Vince, I think, is a much more difficult matchup than Kazama. You just can't go to the part of the world where Kazama thrives. Stay on the feet, man. Like, Kazama will push the issue and he'll be really, really, really aggressive, but he's reckless. And his recklessness, I think, is going to get him hurt here. I think that Smith, outside of a fluky shot, I think he stands up, he puts a jab on him, he starts to pick him apart, and then possibly picks up a TKO in rounds 2 or 3. But Kazama's submission or bust for me, and I just don't see him submitting Smith here. If Smith openly chooses to wrestle here, he's an idiot. Just because it takes a triangle and armbar off of Kazama's back. Next thing you know, you're fighting for your life not to get submitted. And Smith almost got submitted from a choke against Vince Morales. If it was a front headlock, bulldog choke variant, I don't really recall. But yeah, I just think that Smith should do this and make this look relatively easy. And whether he picks up a finish or not, I'm not entirely sure. His dad should be in his ear, just telling him to be patient, because there's no way that he'll lose 3 rounds to Kazama.
It's one of those fights, and we talked about this with Bo Nickel not that long ago. Of, when you're young in your career, sometimes you maybe think about going out there and just kind of getting that cage work in, and especially when you're talking about fighting that as you're working your way up the UFC, and that's why I do want to hear from Elijah Smith. But yeah, I mean, very valid of why he is the favorite that he is in this matchup, and he should go out there and style on him in this matchup. Next up, we got Jocelyn Edwards taking on Priscilla Cachoeira. Edwards is 8,600 on DK, $17 on FanDuel. She's a minus 450 betting favorite. Cachoeira, she is 7,600 on DK and $12 on FanDuel. This is a replacement opponent here for Jocelyn Edwards. She was initially supposed to take on Mayra Bueno Silva. Edwards, she's gone to the decision 8 of her 10 UFC fights. Cachoeira 5-6 in the UFC, and we all know what her Achilles heel is. It is getting taken down, where you try to really back her when you think it's a fight that should keep on the feet. And man, this to me is another takedown city option here, Pete.
Yeah, I definitely can see that, and I can see why the public thinks so as well. You have Jocelyn Edwards here, 7 years younger, 6 inches in the height and reach department. She's looked really, really good in her past couple fights, and looks like she has really developed. I mean, Jocelyn Edwards in the takedown department, since everybody is convinced that she's just going to, destroy Cachoeira in the wrestling department, 1.31 takedowns landed per 15 minutes. 41% accuracy means she's attempting 3.19. So if she lands 1.31 takedowns, in my opinion, she needs to have a ton of control time, or she better hope that she finds a submission finish, because if not, I think like Cachoeira is just going to be stalking her on the feet. I truthfully do. And I've been chalk this entire time up until this fight. I mentioned in the main event how I don't mind getting to 𝗲𝗏𝘁 if from a third underdog standpoint, fourth underdog standpoint, like I don't mind filling 𝗲𝗏𝘁 instead of Hernandez just to be different, and because I think he has a legitimate chance. This is one where I'm fine taking a shot on Priscilla Cachoeira, and I know that you may disagree with me, but Edwards has looked good by mixing things together. Who'd she beat? Chelsea Chandler. Okay. Who'd she beat? Tamaris Vidal. I mean, like, I think personally that Jocelyn Edwards has improved and everybody's noticed it, but I don't think anybody's really noticed how much Priscilla Cachoeira has improved over her time training at MMA Masters over the years. I mean, early on within her career, she lost fights to Shevchenko, got absolutely obliterated and destroyed, called the zombie girl, got smoked by Molly McCann, lost to Luana Carolina, was eye gouging Jillian Robertson, got rear naked choked, lost to Miranda Maverick via armbar, lost to Jasmine Jesuda Vicious via Darce choke, knocked out Josiah Nunes. Let me tell you, Jason, women MMA do not knock people out like the way that Priscilla Cachoeira knocks people out. It does not happen. It is a rarity. And it is such a rarity that it makes me impressed. Like, I'm impressed with her power. Girls don't knock people out like this. And Priscilla Cachoeira knocked Josiah Nunes unconscious. Now, is Josiah Nunes as good as Jocelyn Edwards? No, absolutely not. But I'll tell you what, how does Jocelyn Edwards do against Jasmine Jesuda Vicious, Miranda Maverick, Jillian Robertson? I think that Jocelyn Edwards gets smoked. So this is one where I think that the losses have prepared Priscilla Cachoeira. The camp of MMA Masters has prepared Priscilla Cachoeira. I watched the weigh-ins today. Priscilla looks to be in good shape. So it's not like she's coming in here flabby just off the couch. I think she's been training, and I looked at her socials. She's been training alongside Hernandez, who is another big favorite on this card, who's facing Yulia Stoliarenko. So going up against, Gabby Fernandez every day in training, and all the other women's MMA fighters they have at MMA Masters. On a week like this, Jason, I'm doing it. I'm not going to be chalky. Women MMA fights are very volatile, and I'm going to pivot away from the chalk here. I'm going Priscilla Cachoeira. I think she's either going to hurt and maybe finish Jocelyn Edwards. Or I think the most likely situation is that she wins 2 of the 3 rounds. So give me Priscilla Cachoeira to spoil everybody's takedown city hopes of Jocelyn Edwards. I don't view Edwards as a submission specialist, and you don't necessarily have to beat Priscilla Cachoeira, but I don't think that Edwards Jiu-Jitsu is all that great. The wrestling is better than Cachoeira, yeah, but I'm interested to see the kickboxing exchanges between the two. So give me Cachoeira here at 7,600 for my first official underdog.
Look, I mean, the one thing about Ketawera is if she can keep the fight on the feet, you love the power that she has in her hands, and crazy. That TKO KO prop is plus 850. I mean, that's just one that I just say, you know what, might as well just take a sprinkle, because if Ketawera is going to win, that's how she wins this matchup. But if Edwards is able to neutralize her and make this a grappling fight, Edwards should take it. But I don't mind the call of Priscilla Cachoeira just because of what she could do. I'll tell you this right now. The moment Priscilla Cachoeira is released by the UFC, I give it 6 months before she's a BKFC champion. She's got BKFC written all over.
Yeah. Bro, that's what I'm saying. When have you seen these women MMA fighters knock people out like Cachoeira does? Mm-hmm. I mean,
you put her, happen. I'm going to say it right now. She should already be having this thought in her mindset of, I'm going BKFC when my days with the UFC are over, because she could probably make a lot of money in BKFC. I'm just saying BKFC does pay a good amount of money. Next up, we got Uros Medic taking on Gilbert Erbena. Medic is a minus 380 betting favorite, 8,900 on DK, $18 on FanDuel. Erbena, 7,300 on DK, $12 on FanDuel. He's a plus 290 betting underdog. I mean, look. We don't try to just crap on Alaska FC over here. Or maybe we do. Uros Medic may be the best product to come out of Alaska FC. Does train down at King's MMA, which is a gym that I do like. All of his UFC wins are by TKO, KO. He's never gone the distance. The last time out, which was a TKO win in the third round, it's the first time he ever been to the third round. Erbena is a product of the Ultimate Fighter 29, 1-2 in the UFC. All those fights have been via stoppage. First fight since February 2024. And Pete, you're not going to feel great about it, I think, on either side of this one. But this is probably a fight you have to prioritize for GPPs.
Yeah, I feel pretty good. And, it could be bad that I feel pretty good about this fight. I think everybody's underdog of the week that they're going to feel so confident in is backing Erbena here because of the takedowns, because of him being 3 years younger, having 6 inches in a height and reach department. Having the wrestling to possibly, expose Medic. We've seen Medic struggle in the wrestling and grappling department. 3.01 takedowns per 15 minutes, 44% accuracy, 6.84 takedowns attempted per 15 minutes. We've seen him pick up Brian Battle. We've seen him smoke the Kosi brother. Erbena has the skills to make fights close, but he is so volatile that I just can't trust him. I can't trust him at all. I think that he's susceptible of getting knocked out, whether it's to the head, to the body. And he could be winning the fight and dominating. And then the next round come out and he just absolutely gets smoked. And this is a situation, I kind of view this fight similar to how the 𝗫𝗫 and Nick Klein fight was last week, where like Klein looks good early. He's taking down 𝗫𝗫. He's having his way. And then 𝗫𝗫 was working his way back to his feet, working on separating, getting into space, and then just putting hands on him. When Medic hits Erbena, I think Erbena's going to fold. Medic being one of my favorite fighters here on this card at 8,900, something I really didn't expect coming into the fight. He is from Alaska FC. We know I don't like that. I don't really like that, and that doesn't hold a lot of value in the UFC, but I think Medic legitimately is just good. I think he's just good. He just needs to continue to patch up his ground game, and he seems like if you are more physical than him, you can make him wilt under pressure. I don't think that Erbena is going to be a physical presence against Medic. I think Medic is going to put hands on him, and I think he's going to end up finishing Erbena here. So 8,900 for Medic. I like him here. I think the public dog is going to be Erbena, and it's one that I can see the path, right? Like you saw what he did to Brian Battle, but I just think ultimately it fails here. We saw Tresean Gore beat Erbena too, and I think, Medic is just going to put hands on Erbena and make it look relatively easy in round 1 or 2. So 8,900, Medic is the pick for me.
Yeah, Metch is a pick for me as well. I mean, I think he gets the job via finish. I know here in Florida with the Hard Rock app, one of the parlays I really like to do is, fighter wins and under 2.5 rounds. I haven't looked to see exactly what that number is, but if I can get a little better than the minus 260, which is him to win via finish, I would be looking in terms of that one. By the way, the Ketawera to win by knockout on Hard Rock is now plus 1,000.
Wow.
I'm gonna take a sprinkle on that one.
Might as well, bro. $10, even $10 on that, dude. Like, I mean, come on.
Exactly. Next up, we got another female matchup. Gabrielle Fernandez taking on Julia Storolenko. Fernandez, she's 8,800 on DK, $19 on FanDuel. She's minus 400 on the betting line. Storolenko, 7,400 DK, $11 on FanDuel. She is plus 300. Fernandez has won back-to-back fights after starting 0-2 in the UFC. Storolenko 2-6 in the UFC. This is actually her second stint in the promotion. She's 2-5 in this stint. 3 of her 4 fights have in the first round, and has scored 1 takedown in all those matchups. And that was one of my notes about Fernandez, is she is takedown defense a liability.
Yeah, I mean, this is one where, like, you see the path for Yulia Stoliarenko to get it done. Like, Gabby Fernandez is a fighter that I think had a ton of hype coming into the UFC, ended up losing, and ended up, losing some of that hype. I mean, when she lost to Jasmine Jasudavicius, I don't think we really knew how good Jasmine was. And then she lost to Teresa Bleda. And I'm like, okay. And then, she picked up a split decision over Carly Judice. And then when she was a massive massive underdog, a plus 625 underdog to Kong Wang, it's like, all right, she's going to get smoked. And then she ends up hurting Kong Wang and then rear naked choking her. So I think, like, Yulia Stoliarenko has a path to a victory here by looking to take down Gabby Fernandez. Stoliarenko averages 0.93 takedowns per 15 minutes. 27% accuracy means she's attempting 3.44 per 15 minutes. But she is going up against Gabby's, 60% takedown defense. I think Gabby's just going to be too damn good. I really do. I feel like she's going to beat the hell out of Yulia Stoliarenko, and I really view Stoliarenko as an armbar from guard or bust. I mean, it really is. I think everybody's going to be saying the same thing this week. One of the best armbar practitioners in the sport, next to Ronda Rousey. And if you are wise to that, you're okay. I will tell you, though, when I was watching some regional tape, I did find a fight of Gabby Fernandez where she was stuck in an armbar. So buyer beware. I did not like that. I go, oh, shit. Now, am I going to be picking Yulia Stoliarenko? No, I'm not, because I think on the feet, there's such a big gap between the two skill-wise. I think even in the strength of schedule, you look at it, 70% win rate for Gabby Fernandez's opponents, 61% for Stoliarenko's. Within their wins, 64% for Gabby Fernandez, 53% for Stoliarenko. The better striker is Gabby. She can even wrestle. She can ground and pound. She can even possibly submit Yulia Stoliarenko. But why would you do that? Why would you do that at all? So stand and bang. Maybe follow up some ground and pound. Just put crazy pressure and break Yulia Stoliarenko, as she's been broken plenty of times. I mean, within their careers, right? You have Gabby Fernandez 76% career win percentage, whereas Stoliarenko sits at 57%. So the girl's a very tough girl, but she kind of knows how to lose. And I think that Gabby Fernandez just has to force her hand. So give me Gabby Fernandez here at 8,800. Honestly, one of my favorite plays. Just don't get armbarred.
Yeah, that was the one thing that does kind of concern me, getting armbarred if this fight just hit the mat there. Then our opening fight of the night is a fight that came together here just recently. Cody Brunch taking on Eric McConaughey. By the way, this is at 205 pounds, something to note there. Brunch, he's priced at $8,200, $16 on FanDuel, a minus 175 betting fair. For McConaughey, he's $8,000 on DK, $15 on FanDuel. He is plus 145 on the betting lines. And Cody Brunch, 5-5-1 no contest in the UFC. McConaughey did lose his UFC debut back in February. He's a product of the MMA lab. And Pete, man, this is one of those matchups that, whether we're talking about DFS or we're talking about betting, you're not going to feel great either way.
Yeah. I mean, all right, let's call it what it is, right? Like, this fight is horrible. This fight's terrible. But I don't understand why everybody is so okay with paying minus 175 on Cody Brundage. I mean, let's go over it. I mean, I've never in my life seen somebody with multiple no contests, multiple controversies surrounding his career. When you sit and you look, the guy has a no contest against 𝗵𝗲𝘳𝐼 The recent draw from the apparent head clash. Listen, in wrestling, you guys clash heads. We clash heads all the time in a fight. It wasn't egregious. Getting hit with an illegal move from Jacob Malkoun, there's just always something a part of a Brundage fight, and maybe that's why you want to pick him, because you're like, he's going to find a way for him to pick up a win, or find a way for the referee to force his hand and end up getting his opponents penalized or whatnot. But like, when you really break it down, with his career sitting at where it is, he should have more losses than he does. His career win percentage sits at 64%, whereas 𝗏𝗏𝐻𝐾 sits at 75%. The strength of schedule, pretty similar, honestly. And I thought that this was interesting because we've seen Brundage face some of the best competition in the UFC. So what has Brundage fought outside the UFC? It had to be terrible. And, Brundage's strength of schedule win rate sits at 59%. 𝗏𝗏𝐻𝐾 sits at 60%. He's only had one fight in the UFC, and that was against 𝗲𝗏𝘁𝘲𝐼. Within their wins, the win rate for Brundage sits at 50%, and for 𝗏𝗏𝐻𝐾 sits at 52.86%. And if everybody's just really holding that 𝗲𝗏𝘁𝘲𝐼 fight over 𝗏𝗏𝐻𝐾's head, I think that's unfair. I think it should be more about holding all the egregious fouls and playing the system of Cody Brundage. I think you should be really worried about that more so than one poor performance from 𝗏𝗏𝐻𝐾. This is a winnable fight for both guys. It really is. And I think this is one where just the unknown about 𝗏𝗏𝐻𝐾 intrigues me. And I know that he is a main training partner for Jared Cannonier. I know that he is helping a lot of fighters that are getting onto the Contender Series prep. He splits his time between coaching and training and giving rounds to fighters. He looked to be in phenomenal shape for somebody that, just kind of picked up this fight within the past 5, 6, 7 days. And honestly, like, I just not, if you're given Brundage as an underdog, I could see why there could be a lot of people on it. No problem. He has good wrestling, has good power in his hands. Even in the Julian Marquez fight, that turned into a war against a guy that was not good. In this situation, right, the unknown commodity of 𝗏𝗏𝐻𝐾 intrigues me enough for me to say, screw it. I'm going to go 𝗏𝗏𝐻𝐾 here. And I think obviously you need the first fight of the night. This one's going to be a part of the optimal lineup. I listened to some interviews of 𝗏𝗏𝐻𝐾. He's been steady in the gym, just never left the gym. He's just constantly training. And I know that Brundage has been training as well, but I like what I've seen from 𝗏𝗏𝐻𝐾, and I liked what I heard from 𝗏𝗏𝐻𝐾 as well. So he says, I'm just going to go forward. So I like that. Go forward. Possibly break Brundage. Give me 𝗏𝗏𝐻𝐾 here as the unknown commodity of the slate at 8,000. But ultimately, I think that you need to have this fight. And if Brundage goes out there, takes him down, gets an arm triangle choke, would I be surprised? No, I wouldn't be surprised at all, because he has fought talented competition, and finally he's getting a newcomer, if you will. But I feel like, even the newcomer can really knock out Brundage. We've seen Brundage lose to Cedricus Dumas. I'm not a fan of that. You know what I mean? Yeah. So give me 𝗏𝗏𝐻𝐾 here as my second underdog at 8,000.
I'm telling you this right now. 𝗏𝗏𝐻𝐾 is an ownership play for me. He is.
Yeah.
It's crazy low ownership. Crazy.
That's what I'm saying. Why is
ownership.
Everybody just like so confident in Brundage? I mean, I'll go the other way. I don't care.
Because what, you think he's going to get a DQ win?
That's what I'm saying. Because
I don't know. Personally, I like Cody a lot. It's tough to trust him, and that's one of the things I always say is one of the hardest things for me is when you've talked to the person for a long time.
Yeah,
but
I know.
We've all seen what's happened inside the UFC octagon. It's just, look, if he goes now, look, is this a step down in competition for Cody Brundage? No question it is.
Yeah.
But man, it just in terms of, we're talking about from a DraftKings perspective, seeing what the ownership is on him right now. Eric is, I don't feel like I just want to throw him in, especially in these large field GPPs. If this ownership is saying what it's going to say, give me Eric 𝗏𝗏𝐻𝐾 Just straight up, just a ownership play. We're going to get into our straight up fight picks, and we'll get some listener questions and get out of here for this episode of the podcast. The main event, I'm going to go Fluffy Hernandez.
Yeah, I'm going to go Fluffy Hernandez, even though my gut says 𝗲𝗁𝘁.
Co-main event, give me Steve 𝗲𝗁𝘁.
𝗲𝗁𝘁.
I will go Lucindo.
Lucindo.
I think I hate myself for saying this. Give me underdog number 1, Andre Fili.
I think that's going to be common. I'm going to go 𝐷-Rod.
Matsumoto.
Matsumoto.
Duncan. Walker. Smith. I'm going to go Edwards, but Ketawera might catch her.
Ooh. Yeah, I'm going to go Ketawera.
𝗏𝗏. Fernandez. I'll go Brunch, but man, I don't feel good. I don't feel good.
I'm going 𝗏𝗏. And just real quick, let me just tell you, as a coach, if any of my fighters were pulling stunts like how 𝗏𝗏 has pulled within fights of like purposely trying to get fouled and trying to find ways out and all this and that, I probably wouldn't allow my fighter to fight. I'm being completely serious. I just wouldn't.
I think there's been some interesting interactions in that corner with Mark Montoya. That's something I have noticed in the past. Get some of the score questions here first. Tristan, best leverage play. I will give you a couple here. I think Eric McConaughey is a great leverage play. I think Julius Walker is a leverage play, even though he's the most expensive fighter on the slate. And the other one to me would be armbar from guard, Sorolenko.
Oh, I love all three. Good picks.
Best takedown upside. I mean, look, it all starts with Fluffy Hernandez.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. Ranking the 9K options. So we got 4 options. So it's Walker, Smith, Duncan, 𝗲𝗁𝘁𝘁. I would go Walker 1, Smith 2, 𝗲𝗁𝘁𝘁 3, Duncan 4.
Wow. I'm going to go Duncan 1. Oh, God. What am I going to do? Duncan 1, 𝗲𝗁𝘁𝘁 2, Walker 3, Smith 4.
Sam, best top plays. For me, I think it really has to start with Anthony Hernandez just because of what that fantasy score upside could be if he's able to utilize that grappling. But then I look at some of these fighters in the 8K range that stick out to me. I think you got to look at 𝗏𝗏𝘁𝘁. Matsumoto, even though Pete talked about really doesn't think he goes a takedown route. If he goes a takedown route, that becomes a really interesting play there.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Live dogs, I would say McConaughey at 8,000. Hill's live, but the fantasy score upside is what scares me in there. Ketawera, if she can keep the fight on the feet, that's another one that sticks out to me.
I like Ketawera, you know that. I like McConaughey. Ketawera might be. I mean, I haven't looked at ownership, but the absolute love for Jocelyn Edwards from everybody, from parlays galore. I think it's because everybody just views Ketawera as such a joke.
Yeah, I mean, but man, you have to respect what she can do with her hands.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying.
I mean, it's one of those things of, from a fan perspective, I just want to see her in there against girls that are going to stand with her, because that's what's going to produce the best fight. But, look, she's had a tough row of fighting these grapplers. Top inside the distance fighters, I would look Walker, Smith, Duncan in that 9K range, 𝗏𝗏𝘁𝘁. Hernandez maybe later on in the fight. I think you got to put 𝗲𝗁𝘁𝘁 in there too, just because of if he's going to get a win, it probably happens early on. Any other ones I missed that stick out to you?
No, I really like 𝗏𝗏𝘁𝘁 from an ITD. I really like Duncan from ITD. I like Fernandez from ITD, and I don't really like women's MMA inside the distance all that often, but I think that Fernandez really fits the bill.
Now, when you look at best decision odds fighters, I mean, there's certain fighters look at this card. I mean, look, Lucindo Hill, 8 out of 10 times going decision, if not 9 out of 10 times. I mean, that's the way both of them fight there. I look at Matsumoto. I think he's a good decision fighter in terms of that one. Edwards, probably, if she wins, this be a decision. I think that's, at plus 105. Those are ones that really stick out to me.
I'm with you with the decisions. I mean, I could totally see it.
Favorite parlays. To me, I would if I was going to go a 3-fighter parlay, I would parlay Anthony Hernandez, Gene Matsumoto, and 𝗲𝗏𝘁𝘀 together. Unfortunately, this is a tough week for parlays just because we have so many 3-1 favorites and above.
Yeah, I'm not doing the main event just because I think it's two of the best fighters within the division. I think Gabby Fernandez is fine. I think that Gabby Fernandez is fine. I think Steve Erceg is fine. And I think Elijah Smith is fine. Granted, I just gave you 3 5-1 favorites, but still, I think it is what it is, right? Like, I think it's pretty safe. I don't mind Matsumoto as a 4th leg either.
Yeah. Punt plays. If I'm looking like 7,300 and below, probably O'Day Osborne. Just because, I mean, he does got power in those hands. I mean, but
yeah.
And what the game plan is, Erceg probably plays into that too. I mean, there's not a lot of great options down there.
I agree. Like that's why, like, I'm okay with getting to 𝗲𝗏𝘁𝘀 at 7,500 because it's like 6K range. I ain't playing Kazama. Maybe I'll play a few Cerquera. Anders, no. Osborne, I'm okay with. There's no 72, right? So 73. Yeah. It's like, you know what I mean? It's Erbena. I think that's why he's going to be popular.
In terms of next up from Sammy says top captain MVPs, I will say this: I'm surprised the ownership projections on Anthony Hernandez, particularly on FanDuel at MVP, is not higher than what it is, just because of what he can do. I would expect on DraftKings captain contest that Anthony Hernandez is pretty popular, just because of that takedown upside in terms of that. But maybe you guys start looking at who are some of these fighters that maybe you could go out there. Maybe you look at someone like a Christian Leroy Duncan. Maybe he's a little bit of a leverage type play there at the MVP role there. Next up, Jason and Pete specials. First fight of the night, man. I don't feel good about it. It's the same exact fight. It's from a DFS perspective. It's play McConaughey because of the salary and the ownership.
100% for me. I mean, like, I think McConaughey is better than what he showed. Granted, this isn't an ideal circumstance. It's on short notice. It's up a weight class. But I think it goes both ways, right? It's not like Cody Brundage was training for this was training for this card. And, they both got this random call. So I like the fact that McConaughey's been in the gym. And I know that Brundage has too, but still, it's a value play.
Road Managed Series over under 6.5 inches. Give me the under.
Give me the under as well.
Get YouTube questions before we get out of here. Sam goes, do you think there is a world where Eric Anders could go the takedown city route on CDL?
I think he's going to. I do not think he's going to strike with Christian Leroy Duncan. If he does, it'll be early night in the office, and he needs to wrestle often.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see the way that one plays out. I will not be able to watch this one live, so I'll throw my bets in Discord tomorrow before I go do some play broadcasting. So, Pete, anything you want to mention before we get out of here?
No, I just want to say thanks, guys. All the support for last week. It was a killer week for us, a part of the community. Seems like another chalky card. It is what it is. Pick your spots with the underdogs. Thank you, Jason, as always, for being the best co-host in the business. Thank you guys for being a part of the Fight HQ community, for watching the shows. Please hit the like button. Make sure that every video that we put out has 100 likes. That really is helpful. If you can engage on the YouTube videos by leaving a comment, telling us your favorite, most confident play, and then joining the free Discord below. If you want additional data and information, you can click the Patreon link in the description below for my Patreon. And as always, thank you guys so much, and we really, really appreciate you guys.
And, of course, we'll be back with you next week to get you ready for UFC 319 DDP taking on 𝗲𝗄𝘁'𝘀 Chimaev. Going to be an interesting one next week. We'll get you ready for that one. So that's going to do it for this episode of Fight HQ, and we will talk to you next week.